You're sitting in these chairs for quite a long time, and I don't want to keep you suffering there. But I will just say maybe kind of, a couple of things in wrapping up. One is that there's, as the chapters go on, basically, I'll just sort of give an overview. There's several chapters that go into how it is that we actually become people who get brainwashed into eating animal foods, and the amazing way that whenever we sow in our treatment of animals for food, we always reap in our human affairs. For example, the obesity epidemic, right? Where we are all getting fatter and fatter. We can't seem to stop that. What are we doing to animals by the billions? We have special feed and special hormones we give them to make them very fat very quickly. So we're sowing obesity in billions of animals. We reap it in ourselves. The same thing with osteoporosis, because dairy cows and hens are forced to overproduce milk and eggs, and so they get osteoporosis. We just suck all the calcium out of their bodies by making them overproduce. So we sow that in them. We reap the same thing in ourselves, and we sow basically every problem we have: war, terrorism, the domination of the feminine, and drug addiction, drug abuse, breakdown of the family. All these things we are doing to animals, and we're finding the same things happening to us. So for us to realize this is a conversation that's not been happening, to actually talk about this and understand this, that as we give mercy and love and tenderness to those who are at our mercy, then we are, as Jesus said, and really all the great spiritual teachers said, then we are worthy of having the same ourselves. Because the animals do not retaliate, right? You can do to pigs and cows and chickens whatever the heck you want. You can confine them, you can mutilate them, kill them, steal their babies, just horrible things. And we are doing that massively. And they will not retaliate. But the great adventure, really, of awakening is to see clearly that even though those animals never retaliate, our violence towards them always, inevitably retaliates. It always comes back. And it comes back in very interesting ways. It comes back as psychological illness, as cultural illness, as environmental illness, and as physical illness, and disease, and pain, and suffering, and suicide, and all kinds of things. So I'm touching a little bit on Art's question about the karma. Basically, it's a massive mandala of karmic effects. And I do believe that, sometimes I say there's two kinds of people in the world. There are vegans, and there are pre-vegans. Because I think all of us, whoever we are, eventually we are all vegans, in the sense of, veganism is a modern iteration of the ancient teaching of ahimsa, or nonviolence, or loving kindness and compassion. And we are essentially, at our core, beings of compassion. So in this life, or the next, or whenever, we will all awaken to the truth that what we are actually celebrates love and compassion for others, and we'll wake up out of the fog of misery and violence towards others. And I think that future self is beckoning us forward, come on, let's go. The future self, we are more awakened. And so to listen for that, listen and hear the call of your own future self, who is awake and empowered and alive and is celebrating life with wisdom and compassion. Because that is the truth that you are, that every one of us is. And even when you see people out there who say, oh man, I'd love to eat a burger, instead of getting angry with them, just see their future self. And you will help to draw that out of them. The best way we can transform others, really, is to transform ourselves so that when we look out of our eyes and we see other beings, we look with eyes of love and not judgment. No one is eating animal foods for any reason other than they've been told to do it. They're following a robotic program. They're just doing what they've been told. And they're trying to get out of it, but it's very difficult. I'm amazed that anyone actually becomes a vegan. I remember when I was in Switzerland with Madeline and we watched the mother duck feeding her little ducklings, I realized what she was doing was she was teaching her babies what food is and what food isn't. I realized at a DNA, powerful, deep level, the most important thing that parents teach their offspring of any species is what is food and what isn't. So if we're born into a culture, and our parents, like my mother said, eat this, eat this, eat this, to actually question that, it takes a major awakening. And so we have these forces to deal with, but I think we can do it. I think it's happening more and more. I just heard not too long ago, some of you maybe remember this too, that according to a recent Harris poll, between 2009 and 2011, when the poll was taken, the number of vegans in the United States doubled to over 7 million. So I think that's an indication that momentum is building. And I think the snowball is growing. So, just to finally finish up, there's chapters that go into the physical dimension of this. It's called the intelligence of our human physiology. What are we really designed to eat? There's a chapter on the metaphysics of food, which goes into what are we eating metaphysically? There's a chapter that goes into the environmental effects. There's chapters on oceans and fish, which I really love to talk about, but I don't have time. But the fact that what we're doing to fish is incredible. You have to understand that. There's chapters on dairy and eggs, and there's chapters that go into the spiritual dimensions, the last number of chapters, and objections that people have. So there's it's really a huge, like I said earlier, monologue of understanding that I think we're trying to comprehend and grow into. And if you're interested in joining with us in this, besides reading the World Peace Diet, as Jeff was mentioning, we have a World Peace Diet Mastery Program, a World Peace Diet Facilitator Training. We've trained several hundred people now who are giving courses in the World Peace Diet in communities around North America and in other countries as well, to help people not only learn how to cook and eat vegan foods, but to understand the deep structure of our food choices. Because I remember as I was working with all these ideas for many, many years before I ever even thought of writing the book, I remember telling Madeline, Madeline, there's so much more to this than what people realize. Most people think, yeah, it's about three things, right? It's bad for the environment, to eat meat, it's bad for the animals, it's cruel, and it's bad for your health. And I thought, that's something, but there's a lot more to it. And the psychological and spiritual and cultural and historical and anthropological and sociological dimensions are amazing. And when you understand that, it just really changes everything. And so I said, it'll be great. Someone write a book about that. I can't wait to read it. And the years went by, and this book somehow didn't come out, and I was getting more and more nervous. Come on, somebody write the book. And I remember finally Madeline said, well, I think if you want to read that book, you will have to write it yourself. So I spent 5 years of my life writing the World Peace Diet, and it came out after 5 years. And it was so neat to hear, right after it came out, Donald Watson, who invented the word vegan. Have you heard of Donald Watson? A guy in England. You guys remember the vegans? He was a member of the Vegetarian Society in England. And he was like 96 years old, and in 1944 he invented the word vegan. And he said, veganism is a philosophy and way of life which seeks to exclude, as far as possible and practical, all forms of exploitation of and cruelty to animals for food, clothing, or any other purpose. And so that word, it started from nowhere, but it's really, expanding and getting bigger and bigger all the time. And I think it's because it's really another word for this fundamental, primordial wisdom teaching of compassion is joy. And I was so glad to hear that right before he died, on his deathbed actually, when he was 96 years old, he was still actually active, but he just decided it was time to go. And he stayed in his bed, and my friend told me, who was with him at the time, that his son-in-law, every day just read to him my book, The World Peace Diet. And he said, this is it. This is what I'm trying to say. So it's so touching to hear that. So I'm happy, I'm just delighted that you're here. I really love all of you for the efforts you're making to help plant the seeds of a new world. It will happen. I know it's going to happen. We have a major transformation to go through as a culture. The core of it really is food, because food is the most deep connection we have with our culture and with nature and with animals. And once we get that in alignment, everything else will flow from that. And if that's not in alignment, our efforts are merely ironic. We want for ourselves what we refuse to give to others. And if we refuse to give it to the animals, it's not going to happen for us. So when we actually give peace and justice and freedom to animals and live in harmony with the earth, we'll find that we will have peace and justice and freedom for each other. So please go forth and multiply and spread this message to others. And if we can help in any way, we would be glad to do that. So I'd like to invite anyone, if you're interested, I'm happy to sign books over here. I will say about, as far as feeding companion animals, dogs are easy, really, as far as I understand, vegetarians or vegans. Cats are a little trickier. There's quite a bit of debate about that, but I have quite a few friends that have vegan cats. So I think you can work with that if you feel, it's mostly, female cats usually do pretty well, male cats sometimes have a harder time. But I think the more we can do to move to having companion animals who are like rabbits, it's probably other animals, but maybe not have any companion animals. The ultimate is live with animals, live and be free. Is how I would like to see it. But in the meantime, we have to be loving and compassionate to all the animals that we find in our space here. And as far as cleaning out heavy metals, he's not here anymore. But I think going vegan, doing some fasting, those are really powerful things. Did I answer everybody's questions more or less? I think hopefully yes.
Like I said, I was new to this, and I really appreciate all your words and everybody's thank you. I'm getting so stimulated as you're talking, and it makes me see this, you mentioned the bigger picture. When you start talking, you consider veganism as a lifestyle, then I have to consider everything that I do to the planet that is even slowly harmful. Like using a paper product that has mass pollution reductions, and driving an automobile, and using rubber soles on my shoes. And
is that a question or just a comment? Or?
A direction. I mean, and again, I have researched lots of
right.
information
Yeah.
I know about.
So basically, you know, the biggest bang for your buck is going vegan by far. You know, basically it's about 20 to 30 to 1 in terms of like as a vegan compared to somebody eating a standard American diet. It's about 20 vegans can be fed on the amount of land, petroleum, water. It's about 30 to 1. Pollution, devastation. So moving to a plant-based diet, organic plant-based diet, is enormously powerful. And you know, do that first, and then you can, and also of course reduce, recycle, and all those things. Live in a solar-powered RV like we do. All right. Well, much love to you all. Thanks again. Also, if anyone's interested in talking to Madeline about her paintings, she has about 16 of them actually, prints, and they're vegan. She's been a vegan for 30 years too, and so if you want to celebrate animals and you want to bring one home, she's got signed and numbered quality prints. We also have CDs and music. We take credit cards and all that, so we're happy to talk to you, sign books, and keep the thing going here. Thanks again. And you get a free CD when you get a copy of the book. And the book is 100% post-consumer recycled paper, so no trees were harmed for this book. Remember that.
The good news is that there's no rush. We don't have to hurry. We don't have to hustle, bustle, close up shop in a hurry.
But you got to bring me your plate.
Bring people, if you have one of the plates from the church here, please bring it to Brooke.